Hello, we are pleased to share highlights from the October 24th, 2019 Enhancing Public Spaces with Nature webinar, brought to you by Cities Connecting Children to Nature, an initiative of the National League of Cities Institute for Youth, Education and Families, and the Children and Nature Network. Highlights will include a short animated video about the features and benefits of nature play spaces and a case study from Madison, Wisconsin. This webinar is the third in a series that focuses on strategies cities are using to increase equitable access to nature. Webinars can be found in the Implement Strategies section of the city's resource hub at childrenandnature.org/cities. Research shows that playing in nature makes children happier, healthier, and smarter. But too many kids miss out on nature's benefits because they don't have safe, outdoor places for play and learning. Innovative cities are helping kids thrive by creating nature-filled play spaces. Your city can do this too. So what are nature play spaces? Nature Play Spaces provides kids with hands-on outdoor fun. You'll find things like boulders, logs, streams, and paths, perfect for unstructured activities such as dramatic play, fort building, and creating works of art. This type of kid-directed play is proven to improve physical and mental health, executive function, social skills, and academic success. Creative cities are adding nature play areas to places like libraries, schools and childcare centers, and new developments. What makes up a nature play space? Looping trails and meandering paths, even in small areas, get kids moving. They encourage curiosity and exploration. City parks and transportation departments can team up with community partners, safe routes to schools, and other programs to design and fund paths and trails that inspire adventure. Kids love to play and learn around water. Small ponds and streams provide wildlife habitat and opportunities to discover. These features can also help with stormwater management. Water utilities can partner with cities, schools, and watershed agencies to create play spaces that manage stormwater and connect kids to the benefits of nature. Multi-level play areas get kids climbing, crawling, and moving. This develops strength, balance, and gross motor skills. Natural building materials, like stumps, sticks, and hay bales, encourage kids to plan and create together. Logs make great levers and ramps and are great for climbing and balance, a combination of physics and physical activity. City parks and forestry departments are a great source for logs, sticks, stumps, and wood chips, giving new purpose to downed trees and trimmings. Let the fort building begin. Best of all, you can mix and match nature play elements to create play spaces that work in your city. Imagine the possibilities. Tell us about your nature play spaces using the hashtags CityKidsToNature and Nature Play Space. Find supporting research, tools, and resources at childrenandnature.org and join the movement to increase equitable access to nature. Now we'd like to share a case study presented by Sonia Sankaran, Cities Connecting Children to Nature Coordinator for the City of Madison, Wisconsin.
I am here from Madison. Thanks for having me. I am the coordinator for the city's Cities Connecting Children to Nature initiative for Madison. Okay, I'm just going to ask you one more time if you can still hear. Hello?
Yes, Sonia. Yes.
Oh,
Sonia,
great. Thank you. I switched to a headset. So we got started with this project in about April, I want to say, with planning. And we started out by working at a space that has been actually considered for a nature park for quite some time. It was originally proposed in a different area of this very large, beautiful park that is on the lake, on one of our big lakes in the city of Madison. It was proposed for another area, which is by a community garden. And that community garden is very heavily used by our Hmong neighborhood, a neighborhood that is predominantly has a predominantly Hmong population there. And the grandparents that would use the community garden would take their children to the playground there, and they had a special attachment to that playground. And so when the nature park was proposed, there was a big controversy about it because they didn't want a nature park. They liked their park that they used to bring, that they would bring their grandchildren to, that they would play, because they could see the kids from there. They knew that there was like a good measured amount of risk that they kind of felt was associated with that park. So this nature park has been relocated to another space, and then we have actually, through this process, because of that experience, decided to engage very intentionally with the neighborhoods near there that utilize the park. So this is an aerial picture of the new area. It's a little bit hard to decipher, and that I put this image in there intentionally because if you are starting to do a process like this, it is extremely complicated to find the correct site. It's not a typical process. So for us, this has not been a typical process at all. So one of our first meetings, we looked at a map like this. All of those lines are associated with different underground lines. There's electric, there's water, there's cable, there's all sorts of things. And then in addition, if you see there's an area that's blacked out, that is all considered a flood risk area. And so normally with a playground, you would not build somewhere there. But because this is a nature park, it has materials that will biodegrade and we're kind of setting a new standard. So we looked at these three different sites. Site one was a place that our kids really liked. I worked with kids for this project, which I'll talk about a little bit in a moment. And they really liked that site, but because it was so narrow, we eliminated that. The second site was near a rain garden, which is really lovely, but it wasn't very big. And so we settled on this third site, which is in that flood risk area, but we decided we would take the risk. So another thing we had to take into consideration was distances from the road, the bike path, the basketball court, the shoreline. Those are all established by the city. There's like a distinct number of feet that you have to be from all those things. So when we started looking at design, there were a few different parties several different groups that kind of contributed to this design, and I was brought on to engage with all of them. So first and foremost, we worked with the Bayview Community Center, which I started talking about there. Mostly a Hmong population. There is also people from our Latino American community and African American and a smaller population of our white community members. And so we tried to get a diverse, some diverse opinions from our kids in that neighborhood in particular on what they would like to see in this space. So I worked with their after school program and then led into the summer program, getting opinions from our 4th and 5th graders in particular on design ideas. I also went and spoke to seniors during their tea and talk sessions to kind of understand what their what some of their preferences would be for this space. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. And then we worked with the Parks Division. Obviously, our landscape architects informed us quite a bit. And then operations, one of our big goals for this is to work with operations and work with materials that are byproducts of the forestry operations in the city. So like, branches, logs, things like that. So big design opportunity there was to understand what kind of materials they have for our use. And then with the Madison Department of Civil Rights, we worked with the Disability Rights and Services Program specialist to inform accessibility. Accessibility is a big priority for us, increasingly as we become more aware of what that really means as a city. And so we're really kind of trying to put in some really more developed pathways through this nature park, which might seem more developed than somebody would like to see in a nature park, but we feel it's important. And then the nature play and learning design concepts, which I've learned so much about over the last 4 years working with the Children in Nature Network and the National League of Cities. So things like incorporating gross motor, elements that are going to stimulate the gross motor development, vestibular development, balance, sensory integration, and then imaginative play. So some of the elements you see in the pictures here, one is a lounge chair, that funny cut log that's like cut down the middle. The kids wanted lounge chairs, so we made lounge chairs out of tree trunks. On the right, there's an emerald ash that's been affected by emerald ash borer. There's a lot of those that come down around the city. Luckily, it's a hardwood. We'll be using it for a climbing structure. And then below is a picture of our log raft that will be used for imaginative play. And you can go to the next slide. Oh, am I advancing the slides? Oh, hello.
I'm advancing. Here we go.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay, so what we ended up coming up with, this was rendered by the landscape architects. We can just take a second to look at this. It has a path coming in from the bike path. We settled on having a bench pad where there could be a bench and a space for someone in a wheelchair to be able to pull over and either supervise their child, or a child in a wheelchair to be able to pull over and have a space right there in that bench pad. There's a circular, like a circuit path, which is often recommended for nature play spaces. That's all wheelchair accessible. There's the log raft will have a ramp going up it and a little accessible kind of deck on it for wheelchairs. A little hillock in the middle. We will have fort building materials, so we'll have some loose parts. The lounge chairs, as you can see, and then we'll have boulders in kind of a long winding pattern to represent a dragon, which came out in the conversations with our Hmong elders as being an important element. Being near the water, the dragon spirit is something that they all think about a lot. They all wear a bracelet and talk to their kids about the dragon spirit when they're playing by the water. And then this is being put in next to an existing swing set, so that's also there. Okay, next. Oh, and a small fort. I forgot to mention that. So as far as community engagement goes, we, from the very beginning, the reason that I was brought on for this project is because that's kind of my corner. I worked on engaging youth and residents and co-designing this kind of nature play space, and we feel that this is extremely essential for a lot of reasons. First of all, because it's their space, but it also addresses some of these bigger picture issues that we see as a city, which is disproportionate planning and use of public outdoor spaces by our white middle and upper class community members. So this is like a kind of an intentional effort to bring more representation into that process. Also, the design of the park needs to be relevant to various groups, both culturally and different groups of different generations. So, like incorporating the dragon, or the fort came from a conversation not just with the children but the elders talking about a hut on, like, a lot of this time that they spend outdoors or have spent outdoors in their life has been farming, and having a hut for shelter and rest was an essential part of their kind of outdoor experience. So those kinds of things the park doesn't represent a single culture, but that maybe feels comfortable to people coming from different cultures. We're putting in planters that will be accessible for our elders too. They're higher and will have medicinal herbs in them. So that's also something relevant for that older generation. And it also invites youth and marginalized communities to consider themselves as an essential part of planning their own spaces. And so it just provides them a space for voice, but also we did some career training. We brought in the landscape architects to meet the kids and talk to them about what that really is. And that was really important. Okay, next. So this is just a little representation of some of the community engagement output that we had. The elders mentioned that they would like benches along the shore. So as I mentioned, this is a huge park. If you see that in the aerial map, on the far right lower corner is where the park will go. But the park extends much further over toward the west with this long, beautiful path along the shore. And you can even see the community garden on the upper left part of the picture, and that's where they would be coming from often. So they mentioned it's essential for them to have benches along that path in order for them to visit this space. So we are working on that. They said flowers are something that they would love to see. The Hmong hut, hills, they remember going up and down hills and when they would be farming in Thailand or Vietnam or wherever they are from. The dragon motif I spoke about, medicinal herbs and native embroidered patterns. The kids loved the idea of having a maze an outdoor maze through the grasses. So we're going to try to work on that. They wanted some climbing. The fort, we talked about the lounge chairs and the boat. So all of these things were youth ideas as well.
We hope you enjoyed highlights from our Enhancing Public Spaces with Nature webinar. More information about nature play spaces and additional nature connection strategies for cities can be found at childrenandnature.org/cities. Thank you.